Welcome Game and App students to your first prototype project. In these mini challenges, you'll be showcasing your learning from a week of tutorials and explorations by putting together your own prototype version of a game concept that has to have kind of the core content of the section, but also allows for a lot of open-ended design by you, the game developer. I will be sending you some very basic prototype outlines for these projects that include some basic scripts and sometimes mechanics and prefabs that you might want to work with, but they're always going to be pretty bare bones because I want you to be the ones to flesh out the actual gameplay of these experiences. Now, gameplay is a bit of a loose term for this first one because there's not going to actually be any real player controls. We're only going to be controlling the camera and just passively observing the ball as it travels along this platform. So in this kind of section, we're going to be dealing with something called a Rube Goldberg machine. Or a Rube Goldberg. I always spelled it wrong. A Rube Goldberg machine. And what these things are is there's these machines that kind of things can travel around. You might have seen them at like Science World or in different videos. I recommend looking up some videos online of Rube Goldberg machines, but the idea is you put a ball or an object at the top and it rolls all the way down through various different contraptions and clever mechanisms until it reaches the bottom. And then you can restart the process or just call it a day. But the idea is just using gravity and basic physics to have something follow an interesting pathway. And so in this first video, I just want to explain the tools that I'm providing you. And in the second video, I'll show you a few kind of general strategic ideas you might want to use. But ultimately, you're going to make a cool Rube Goldberg machine using the core content of Unity that you've learned so far. So I'll be sharing this project file with you through a Git link so you can clone it and then open it up in your own version of Unity and poke around in it. So feel free to pause the video and get that loaded over and imported if you want to follow along with me. Otherwise, just watch the screen and follow along there. In this scene, I've set up a few things. The first thing you'll notice is that there's this ball and a simple slope platform and then this red final platform. Notice I've given things names on the side here, although this one actually I should probably call this ramp just to make this more consistent. So I have a ramp, I have a ball, and I have this finished platform. If I press play to run this experience, you'll see that I'm centered on the ball, and as I move my mouse, I see it moving around, and when I hit this platform, this animation begins to play, or this effect is triggered. So let's head back out, and I'm going to run this again and zoom out right away with my mouse so we can see it a little bit more, and I'm actually going to pause the game for a sec. And so what we're having go on here is the ball has physics applied to it, it's rolling down, and this is a kind of a finish line. As soon as I hit it, I have this effect that starts to play to show that I've reached that checkpoint. And there's some options we have for changing some of these settings, and really there's not much to this yet, but it's just the most bare bones I could show to kind of get an initial setup of things. So a ball rolling down a platform and triggering something on contact with the finish line. You'll also see I have this message in the top left. Press tab to switch between camera views. So if I head back and restart this, if I press tab, you'll see that I go to a free camera that I can like move around like I'm flying through the air. If I press tab again, I go back into the zoomed in mode, and I tab again and I go to the zoomed out mode and watch the ball fall away into the endless abyss. And you're going to need to add more content to this. But here's a few more little pieces that you'll want to be aware of as you work with this prototype. There are two cameras in this scene. One of the cameras is called the follow camera. The other is called the free look camera. When the game begins, I have the follow camera enabled. And as I press tab, I switch to free look camera, and then tab again, I switch back. So I'm rotating back and forth between these two cameras depending on what I need. Something that I can do here is adjust some of the values of my follow and free look cameras. Take a look at the scripts and you'll see information about the distance, the speeds of the mouse, the limits of how close or how far away you can get from the objects and distances, as well as for the free look, the movement speed of the camera itself. And you can tweak these values to be custom to the way that you want your experience to work. So feel free to kind of tweak those values as you see fit in your own project. I also have this thing called a canvas, which we'll talk about UI a bit later in the course, but if I double click on it, you'll see it kind of zoomed out here. And you'll see that there's the text in the top corner. If you want to actually ever see this canvas UI, go up in the top of your screen and select 2D, which will kick you over into the two-dimensional perspective of that canvas, where you'll see I put this little text message that appears over the player's screen. You can feel free to change this message if you want, or if you're curious, you could even right-click and go UI and add some custom content Not required, but just if you're curious. And once you're done messing with the UI, you can press 2D again to go back to the 3D view. How do I get back to my content quickly? Well, choose the ball and double click, and I'll zoom right in on it. My ramp is really simple. It's simply just a reshaped cube with a box collider. And the ball itself has a few things going on with it. It has a rigid body, so that it has physics applied to it. You may want to play with the mass to make it more or less massive, depending on the mechanics that you have, as well as maybe some drag to have things slow down at different points of contact with stuff. You'll notice I also have a camera manager, which is responsible for kind of allowing the camera to move around with this ball. You'll see I have a follow camera and a free look camera connected here. One thing I want to show you is how to fix things if you accidentally break some connections. So let's say that I accidentally managed to have no camera attached to this object. If I try now to run my game, there's going to be an issue with the camera not being found, although it just kind of chose one. It's supposed to start with the follow camera, but Unity didn't know what to do, so it just kind of tried to guess. So I actually need to fix my camera. My follow camera should be attached to this follow camera. So I can click and drag this over into this slot. I could do the same thing with my free look camera for the free look camera slot, or click this blue circle and choose from the cameras available in my game, the free look camera, and double click. And now I've reattached these. The final feature I have on the ball is this check finish script, which is going to check and see once I've touched a finish line, it's going to trigger an effect on this platform, which was that kind of crazy effect popping up on the screen. This finish platform object, if I open it up, I have two things. I have this hole effect and I have this lightning state effect. So I already have two effects attached to this that I can pick and choose between. If I want to use the lightning instead of the hole, what I can do is I can disable the hole, choose the lightning, enable it, and then attach it to the ball. So actually in here, the finish effect on my platform. So right now the hole is the effect the platform wants to reference. Instead, I can do attach the lightning state. And now if we run the game, we should see that once I reach this platform, I see a different effect being played out, this lightning state. And in your projects, under assets, you'll see that it'll actually come with this 48 particle effect pack that I downloaded from the asset store. And under the effect list, you can choose any of these that you want. So for example, if you wanted this, I don't know, let's go with flame. I could attach this flame to the platform. And if I want to use that instead of these other effects, I'll just disable this other effect. And on my finished platform, connect the flame to my finished effect instead. Now, if I run my code, when I reach the platform, it will instead play this flame effect. Cool. I like that one a lot, actually. So you can kind of mess around with some different options for effects if you're curious. And so here's what the basic framework I'll be giving you to work with is: a basic player with some camera options to tab between, a basic finish line with some effects you can attach to it, and a really basic UI with really basic instructions that you're going to be building on top of. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about a few kind of prototype concept ideas that you might want to work with as you enter into creating your own prototype.